Muscular tissues. The muscular tissues in our body are responsible for the movement in the body. They contract and relax, and due to this contraction and relaxation, we are able to do all the movements of our body, like lifting our hand, walking, and all the other different movements of our body is because of the contraction and relaxation of this muscular tissue. The muscular tissue are made up of muscle cells, or these muscle cells are also called muscle fibers. There are three types of muscle fibers or muscle cells, like you can see in this picture. We have called the skeletal muscles, which are attached to the skeleton. We have the cardiac muscles, which are present in the heart, and we have the smooth muscles, which are present in many other organs, involuntary muscles present in the intestines and other parts of the body. Let's learn about the first type of muscles called the skeletal muscles. And why are they called the skeletal muscles? Because they're attached to the skeletons. If you observe, they have these light, dark and light bands. Right through, they have this alternate light and dark bands. And hence they are called striated muscles. Striated muscles means muscles with striations, muscles with light and dark bands. We also see in the picture that they are long. They're very long. Here we put the point here. The cells are long. They are cylindrical. They are unbranched. And they have many nucleus. They're multi-nucleated. And you can see the nucleus here. They've got a number of nucleus. They're multi-nucleated. They've got these bands. The dark and light bands. So these are the characteristics of striated muscles. And they are also voluntary muscles. Voluntary means they can be controlled by our will. So we'll study the next type of muscles. They're called the cardiac muscles. And from the name only you know, the cardiac muscles must be present in the heart. Now these muscles show rhythmic contraction and relaxation. That is why our heart starts beating even before we are born. And this beating of the heart continues throughout the lifetime. So these cardiac muscles, they do not get tired. They do not get fatigue. When you say do not get fatigue, means they work continuously throughout the lifetime. They relax, they contract, they relax. They show rhythmic contraction and relaxation throughout the life. And if you look at the structure, they too are cylindrical. Yeah, so they are cylindrical. They are branched. You can see the branches. Here they're not the skeletal muscles were unbranched, but the cardiac muscles are branched. Then they are uninucleate. They just have one nucleus each. Unlike the skeletal muscles, here they just have one nucleus each. They're uninucleate. So those were the characteristics of cardiac muscles which are present in our heart. And the important characteristics of them is they do not get fatigued, they do not get tired, they work all the time, right through life. Now we go on to the smooth muscles. These muscles are involuntary muscles. They are not in our control. And these muscles, as you see in the picture, they're spindle shaped. What you mean by spindle shaped is that they are pointed at the tips and broad in the middle. See, all of them are pointed at the tips and broad in the middle. That's a spindle shape. I'll draw it again. This is a spindle shape like this. Pointed at the ends, broad in the middle. So all these smooth muscles have a spindle shape and they are long. They are uninucleate. From the figure we can see that each of them has got just one nucleus. So they're uninucleate. And they're unstriated. They have no striation. Unlike the cardiac muscles and the skeletal muscles or the striated muscle, these have got no striations, and they're involuntary. They are not in our control. They contract and relax on their own, and they're not in our control. Let's go ahead and see where do we find these muscles. We find them in the bronchi of the lungs. Now this is the lung. You can see the picture here, and this is the trachea, this is the bronchus, which keeps on dividing and redividing here, and these involuntary muscles are present in the bronchi of the lungs. They're also present in the iris of the eye. Now what is the iris of the eye? Is this colored portion outside of the eye. We have these different colors. Some have got a blue eye, some got black eye, some have got brown eye. So the iris of the eye is this portion around the pupil, and in this iris of the eye we have these muscles which help us to contract and relax, change the size of the pupil. The muscles present in the iris of the eye are involuntary, or the unstriated muscles. These unstriated muscles are also present in the ureter. This is called the ureter. It joins the kidney to your bladder, this duct, and in this duct called the ureter we have the smooth muscles present. So now to summarize what we studied, we said that the muscular tissue is made up of muscle cells, and there's another important point we need to note, that these muscle cells have got a special protein, and this protein is called the contractile protein. This contractile protein inside the cells, they contract and relax and help the contraction and relaxation of the entire muscle tissue. And the muscle cells are of three kinds we saw. One were called the voluntary. Why were they called voluntary? Because they were under our control, under our will, like the muscles of our hand, our legs. They all attached to the skeleton. They were called the voluntary. They were called the skeletal muscles because they were attached to the skeleton. They were called the striated muscles because they have made of light and dark bands. All these are the names of one muscle cell: skeletal, voluntary, striated. They can be called by any one of these names. And we saw the structure. They were long, cylindrical. They had many nuclei. They were unbranched. Then we came to the cardiac muscles. The cardiac muscles, from the name, we know are present in the heart. And the main characteristics, the main feature of this muscle, they contract and they relax throughout your lifetime. They do not get tired. They do not get fatigued. They too are cylindrical, but however they are branched, and they have a single nucleus. Then we went to the smooth muscles. They were called the smooth muscles, or they are called the unstriated muscles because they had no striations. They had no light and dark bands. They were involuntary. And why involuntary? They're not in the control of our will. And we saw where they were present. They were present in the bronchi of the lungs, in the iris of the eye, and the ureters in our excretory system.